The Yom Yom for today and for tomorrow. Studying Talmud and related works, studying Chassidut, and actually serving God, prayer, doing the commandments are necessary, imperative. Not only can there be no thought, is it impossible to have one without the other? We're only going to serve God, we're not going to learn the Torah, or we're only going to learn Torah, we're not going to serve God. Exactly, their relationship is mutually enriching. Word in English called symbiotic. Each one benefits from the other. An ignorant person, a person that doesn't learn the Torah, he can't be a chassid. You can't just do good deeds and be ignoramus. Also, learning the Talmud and the law, this is, and you have to learn, not just doing good deeds. What does it mean, a chassid? Chassidi Chabad, chassid. What's a chassid? A chassid is a person that acts with piety, does more than is expected toward his creator. So also the learning of Chassidut has to be that you do more than is expected to the creator. And the ultimate purpose is to actually do in the world, to actually do physical commandments, prayer. So they have to be all joined together. You have to be enthusiastic and involved, not only in doing good deeds and going out and doing things and prayer, helping others. That's all wonderful. You have to do, but you also have to learn. Learning Torah. Learning Torah is of essential, utmost importance. But of course, on the other hand, learning Torah is not sufficient alone. So they both have to be done together. Torah and action. That's today. Now let's do tomorrow, Shabbos, Shabbat. Where is it? Is this? Here we go. It's a tradition among the elders of the Hasidim that the TANYA, the book the TANYA, which is the basic book of Chabad, it is a compilation of advice that was given by the Alter Rebbe to the Hasidim that came into private audiences between the years of 1780 and 1790, 10 years. Then in the summer of 1792, he began arranging the Tanya in the form of this. He knew all the questions that were asked by the Hasidim, and these what type of questions? Their concern was only serving God. Their concern was only serving God. How can you serve God? How can you be happy? How can you have love of God? How can you have fear of God? How can you be a normal human being at the same time? And that the world shouldn't get us down, and we should elevate the world around us. To be in the world, but to be totally devoted to the Creator. How can we do this? So the Rebbe knew the questions that were being asked, and they were being asked by tremendously genius people and tremendously serious people. And sometimes they were asked by very, very sincere people, but they reached to the depths of the soul, the questions bothering the soul. So he said that was begun in 1792. A year later, there were already a lot of copies. And in time, there were corruptions. The Alter Rebbe, first Rebbe, had a lot of enemies because he was starting a whole new, looking at Judaism from a totally new angle. So there were everything was handwritten, just like the Talmud was handwritten for years. How long was the Talmud handwritten? I think over 1,000 years. There were only handwritten copies. The whole entire Talmud. When was the first? The Talmud started. It was written like 1,000. What is it? 700 years ago, 800 years ago, and the first printing presses were only like 500, 600 years ago. So it was all. So the same thing with the Tanya. It was handwritten, but only for 5, 10 years. But nevertheless, people started to. The enemies started to falsify words to make it seem that the Rebbe was saying things which were not true. Therefore, the Rebbe then quickly had it printed. That's one version. In 10 years, this is 10 years of advice that the Rebbe took 2 years, 3 years to write down. There's another version. For 20 years, the Rebbe wrote this work, the Tanya. painstakingly examining every word and even every letter. By the year 1795, in other words, it's not that the Rebbe began in 1792 and 3 years later he finished it, but the Rebbe began for 20 years. Then he finished it in 1795. So it wasn't 3 years preparation. It was 20 years of preparation. Every letter was exact. The text was pure and clarified. And then he granted permission to copy it over. Then when the copies became numerous and corrupted, he had it printed. Then it was printed. The Tzemach Tzedek, the third Rebbe of Chabad, the grandson of the first Rebbe, he said that on the first Rosh Hashanah of his life in 1789, the Alter Rebbe said the statement that the Tanya begins with, Mashpiyim oto tia tzadek, be a tzadek. That was the first 3 chapters of the Tanya. So whether he said this and he remembered it and just started reading it, writing it down 3 years before, or if he was preparing it in spiritual, intellectually, whatever, and starting to write it down 20 years, there's 2 different opinions. The Rebbe never said what it was, but nevertheless, it finished. Everyone agreed that it finished in the year that the first Rebbe of Chabad, that the third Rebbe of Chabad was born. First year of born, 1789. That's when. Okay, let us now go to a story. Let's have a story. Here we go.